Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. I'm Melissa and this is Melissa Knits for Fun. Today we're gonna have a quick knit and chat and we're gonna talk about swatching and blocking. Before we get started, I do want to mention what I'm wearing, which is the Ophelia by Linnea Elizabeth Knits, and she just released this pattern yesterday. I talk extensively about it in my second episode, so if you're interested in knowing more about the pattern and about what yarn I used, etc., go check that episode out. Now, getting started, swatching. You may be thinking, well, you mean gauge swatching, right? Well, I do mean gauge swatching, but I also mean swatching for other reasons. There are several other reasons to swatch. How does the fabric look? Do I like the fabric in that needle? Do I like these two yarns paired together? Do I like the color combo that I'm trying to use in a color work pattern? Do I like the feel of the yarn when it's knitted up and blocked? So, why would you swatch? Well, I just gave you all the reasons. You may be saying, okay, that's great, but I'm still not going to swatch because I hate swatching. And that's perfectly fine. I don't swatch for everything. I certainly do not gauge swatch every time that I do a top or a garment, but I always gauge swatch if I'm doing a test knit, because for me, that is a commitment that I am making to the designer that I will get gauge, and then I will be able to give them accurate yardage on what I used at the same gauge that they had. So I do always gauge swatch for a test knit. One of the reasons I do that, aside from just trying to make sure that I'm getting gauge, is that, swatches can do funny things. Sometimes they can lie to you. Sometimes they don't. But sometimes they don't act the way that you expect them to act. And I gauge swatched not long ago. I did this nice big in the round swatch. This is Let Loopy. It's for a test knit that I was going to do. And down here I did it with the size 7, which is the recommended needle size. And up here is a size 8, and I put a little garter row in between so that I would know the difference. Before blocking it, I got it was either 21 or 22 stitch gauge on the size 7. And on the size 8, I got a 20-inch gauge. If I did not block this, and this is the importance of blocking your gauge swatches. I have knitters all the time tell me, I got gauge. And I'm like, did you block it? No. What does that matter? Well, it matters a lot because fabric changes when you block it. Things relax, your yarn relaxes, it lays differently. It usually grows, so your stitch count gets a little bit smaller, I think is what you would call it if it went from 22 and 18. It just relaxes. It's kind of like when you get in a bath, right? And you're like, oh, okay, this is better. Well, your yarn does that too. So you want to make sure that you're blocking, and you want to make sure that you block the way that you're going to block the garment. And I found this out. I said something on, I think it was the first episode, about how that swatches can sometimes lie. And then I had a swatch that showed that I had gotten gauge, and then I knitted up the sweater and it was a size smaller than I was expecting. I started thinking about it and I realized, well, I pinned my swatch. I did not pin my sweater. So I'm going to reblock that and pin it and see if I can actually get it to the schematics and get the size that I was expecting, because I did pin the swatch, and that will make a difference. Because when you pin it, it does hold it in a certain place and it doesn't allow it to shrink in naturally. And I did not pin the sweater. Now, another thing that can happen that's interesting, right, to get back to this swatch, is I got the 21, 22 on the 7, a 20 on the 8. I would think, oh, I know when I block it, I'll get like an 18 on that size 8. And I'll just use the size 8. But because my conscience would not let me do that, it is a test knit, I need to be very accurate. I blocked it and I laid it out, and when it dried, I got out my measuring tape and I laid it down there, the little sewer's measuring tape. So I laid it flat and I counted. I'm like, well, that doesn't seem right. So I grabbed a little easy gauge swatcher, you know, finder thing that you lay down on top of it and see where the stitches are. Got the same result. I got a straight edged ruler and counted and got the same result. Then I contacted Letha and I'm like, I'm coming up there because I need some help. This does not make sense to me. And she measured it and got the same results as well. And here were the results. And this is why I kept going, this does not make sense, because it defies logic. I got an 18.5 stitch gauge on the 8. Okay, fine. Except for I got an 18 on the 7. I have no idea what happened. I don't know if it was the yarn, if it's the way I knit it. But I would knit it the same way. So I am going with, I should use the recommended needle size of a size 7. This doesn't happen very often, and I was talking about it in the yarn shop the other day, and there was a lady in there who's very, very experienced, and we were talking about that, and she said, yeah, it doesn't happen very often, but every once in a while you'll have something like that happen, and that's the importance of gauge swatching. Now, the other reasons to swatch, right, to see how would, you know, two colors go together, right? Do I like this marling? No, I don't. But I was able to feel how does how do the two yarns react. And this was an alpaca and this was super soft. So these were two whole scarn colors and yarns just to see how they reacted together. Do I like how the fabric knits up? This is one where I decided I would do a little swatch because I wanted to use this yarn. It was one that I saw as a yarn idea on Ravelry on one of the sweaters I want to make. And I wasn't sure because I had some of this yarn in my stash and I was like, I'm not sure that that'll knit up the way that that one did. But sure enough, it does, and it's really pretty. I will use a different color, but I'll wind up using this yarn. What does the fabric feel like if I pair it with something? This is a mohair and a merino held together just to see how they feel together. There's another reason to swatch. Am I doing a technique? This was smocking. This was, we did a big swatch so that we could try out our afterthought smocking in Costa Rica. And so you have to have something to work on to check it out. And another reason, okay, can I see the pattern in that yarn? I want to use that yarn that I just showed you, the swatch that I just showed you. I want to use that color for a book club pullover by Sorry Nordland. And it's cabled, as you can probably tell. So I just did a little swatch of it and I checked it out and I like how it turned out. I think that you can see it well enough. I will wind up using this yarn to knit it. So there's not just one reason to swatch. There's all kinds of reasons. If you don't like to, well, don't do it, right? You can take the chance. I take the chance often, and I've paid the price a few times. I have a few things that live at Letha's shop. One of them's a beautiful garment, a beautiful colorwear garment that I knitted out of her hand-dyed yarn. It was just beautiful. I didn't gauge swatch, and I don't like the final fit. It is just too tight. I should have gauge swatched. Maybe if I lose some weight, I'll be able to wear it, but I'm not holding my breath. If you want to take your chances, take your chances. But if you really want to know if you're going to get the fit that you want, and if you've taken the time to do all of your measurements, take the time to do a swatch, just to make sure that you are, in fact, going to get a really well-fitting garment. Now, another reason I told you is just to see, right, do I like color combinations? I was doing a swatch for some color work to see if I like low contrast or high contrast. I like high contrast better. With the sweater that I've shown several times, and I'm fixing to show it again to talk about blocking. For that sweater, I could not decide between two colors, and of course now I cannot find the swatch. There it is. I could not decide between two colors to use. I knew I wanted to use the blue sapphire. I wasn't sure if I wanted to use the bleached white or if I wanted to use another very similar yarn that is J.C. Rennie that's called Unagi Pearl, and I'll show you. I did a little swatch of it just to see how it worked up, and let me get a little closer. I think you can see there's all these pretty little pinks and purples and greens and blues in there, and I thought, ooh, that'll look really pretty. So I did a swatch with both of them. That's the Unagi Pearl and that's the white. I very much preferred the white. I just don't like how that swatched up and how that looked with the kind of different colors. You can see it doesn't exactly look right. I really liked this one, so I went with it. And I've shown this a couple of times already on here, but when I tell you that blocking makes a big difference, blocking makes a big difference. I got done with the sleeve, and I'm going to move up. Do you see how kind of puckered that looks? How the ribbing doesn't look great? And you can even see here there's a color difference compared to how the body looks. Look at that. Look at how pretty that is and how unpuckered it is, how flat it lays. Let me fold it down and get down to the ribbing. You can see how much nicer the ribbing looks down here than this over here. All right, that, well, let's see if I can do this. That ribbing versus the other ribbing. Blocking makes a huge difference. I had a picture, and I took a picture of me wearing this one, and then I have a picture of me in the body before blocking it. And I'll put that one up there, the side by side, so that y'all can see the difference. It just makes all the difference in the world. And then you saw with this, with the Holst Garn and with the J.C. Rennie as well, they still have spinning oil in the wool. So you need to get that out, and that color difference is because of the spinning wool, and that will come out when you block it. And all of that, you know, just the kind of, it just doesn't look as nice. It looks kind of, you know, it's crumpled or crimped or whatever you want to say. That will all come out and it will lay like this and it will be flat. So please, 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 please block. Do you need to block every single garment that you ever make? Probably. Do you need to block every single project you ever make? Probably not. I'm not going to block my fingerless gloves. I'm going to wear them. That'll block them. I'm going to wash them, but I'm probably not going to lay them out. I'm not going to block socks. When I wear them, they will conform to my feet if I do a pair of socks. I don't think you need to. Lots of people do, and they make sock blockers. If you like to block socks, block socks. I don't, so I won't be blocking them. This is one of those things, if you're making the garment for yourself, you're not doing a test knit, you're making your own socks, whatever, do what you want to do. You're the one that has to live with whatever happens, right? With the consequences of not swatching or with how it looks if you don't block before you wear it. So do you, right? Do whatever you're comfortable with. I would say if you're doing something in lace, block it. And you probably want to pin that. You probably want to stretch it a little bit because that lace will bloom and it will, you know, really make a difference in the finished project. If you've ever seen something blocked with lace, you've seen the before and after, and I'll see if I have some pictures of that. You'll see it's like this big, and then all of a sudden it's this big, and it makes a really big difference. If you're giving a gift, I would advise for you to block it, right? You want it to look nice when you're giving it to somebody else, and you want to swatch so that you make sure that you're making the right size. And with that, I'm going to get off my soapbox about swatching and blocking. What I would love for y'all to do is drop me a line, drop me a comment below, and let me know if you think this was worthwhile. If you like these little knit and chats, and if you do, what topics would you like to see? Would you like to see me, you know, talk about specific yarns? Would you like me to just chat about some things that I've done? Would you like me to do some tutorials? What would you like me to do? Or do you think that this small video is kind of a waste of time and you're like, yeah, just give us your regular episodes. And if there's something really pressing that we want to know, we'll let you know and you can do a knit and chat. Just let me know, and I will talk to y'all later. Thank you so much for hanging out with me, because it does mean a lot that you are taking your time. And again, I have lost my little, there it is, my little remote here to turn this off so that y'all don't have to see me lean forward. All right, well, have a great weekend. Well, I guess it's almost over, but have a great day.